Hello, everyone. It's Thursday night. It's the handicap, and it's me, Chris Royer, in for Brent this evening. I believe he's away with a good mate, so kindly asked for a night off, and I said I'll obviously hopefully help him out. It's good to be here again, obviously with Mossman, a familiar guest. We're also supposed to have Admiral on the show. I'm not quite sure where he is yet, but if he does, when he does rear himself, rear his head up in the studio, we'll add him in. But in the meantime, myself and Mossman will obviously start going through the fixtures, and obviously we've got NPC to go through and some URC. I think Mossman, you also into English Premier yourself, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll go through the three comps. Yeah. So, but anyway, we will start. Let's start on NPC. Mossman, how's it been going for you? I'll be very honest for me, not so great this season. Previous 2 seasons were good. The points were flowing, as you know, me as a little bit of a points punter myself, but this season I've been battling to call it, and even last week I enjoyed last weekend's quarterfinals. But how's it been going for you?
Yeah, I mean this weekend on the show, it's probably picked the worst time for me to come on as a guest because I've literally my wife and I have got baby number 2 due like at any moment. So if I disappear off this call, that could be why.
All right. Okay.
So if nothing happens, Monday will be the day. So yeah, this is one of those rare occasions where I've literally like not looked at anything. Like usually I'm pretty across like the opening lines, tracking stuff. Obviously I've got my process, and I'm running numbers, etc. I have done that for NPC. I haven't done it for anything else. Have not had a chance. So I suspect that this would be one of these rare weekends where I literally don't think I'll make a bet, which is like almost never happens. But that's cool. I'll be here trying to sort of piece things together. But so that's why I was sort of thinking like, oh, it's good that there'll be someone else on as well. But obviously the Admiral's compass is he's running around on some rocks or something.
Yeah, he just messaged me. He said you will be a bit late. He will be joining us, so we'll just shoot the breeze until he arrives. But to
answer your question though, NPC's been really good actually. It's one of these competitions that for whatever reason, like I can always rely on it, like for good results. And I think and it depends on different people and their process, but I think one of the things is that because NPC is quite a short, sharp competition, there's not a huge amount of resting. You don't get these real up and down spots where teams are just sending out the reserves. I mean, it only happened once this year when Canterbury sent the B team up to Whangarei to play Northland, and that was a fairly kind of obvious spot. But other than that, teams have to play hard, because if they want to get into that top 8, they can't afford to be resting people in a 10-week competition. So I think for whatever reason that kind of suits me and suits my methods. So it's always been consistently pretty good.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I've actually, as I say, punting not going so well myself, but I've enjoyed the NPC competition itself to see some of the smaller teams having a good dig in there. Seen Southland take in the Ramfield Shirley Shield as well, and so it's been fun to watch. But I think about halfway through, I just stayed focused on the championship and the other internationals, and I wasn't just enjoying watching. I'm going to enjoy watching it. I'm definitely going to watch the semi-finals because it was quite. I love knockout rugby. Also, as a punter, I prefer knockout rugby when it really is strength versus strength, and you expect 100% motivation. I can more trust the form lines, trust the feeling on the games. But we got the Admiral. Yes, I'll bring in the Admiral. I hope his picture. Hope we get this right. There it in. We lost him for a while when he was in America. We believe he's back home now. Yeah, there he is. How you doing, Admiral? How you doing, mate?
Evening. Not bad. Sorry I'm late. Lost track of time there, but no, good to see you, lads.
No, also good to see you. It's been a while since I think you've been on the show proper. I think you and I did a little sneaky Friday show the other day, but it's been a while since you've been on. But it's good to have you back. And I think it was the last time I hosted for Brendan. It was us three. We had quite a good evening. Even had a shocker call in negative double-digit handicaps, which came nowhere that weekend. I can remember that clearly. But hopefully a bit better this time around. But we just kicked off, Admiral. We're just about to start. We actually haven't even gone through the games. Obviously, we'll go through the NPC, URC, and English Prem. But we've got the Targo line up there. But I'll start with you, Nathan. We've got the Targo -2. Targo, obviously, makes sense for them to be favourites at home. Yeah, even by this margin, looks about right to my eyes. What I've seen, haven't been following as closely. But what are your thoughts here?
They didn't actually start as favourites when this line opened, and it wasn't like. And the only reason I know that is because I use an app that is actually just for fixtures and points. It's called Tribe in the Southern Hemisphere, but they've got an integration through to the TAB, and so it just showed the money line when I was looking at the fixtures, and I could see that I think Bay of Plenty were sort of 170 favourites at that point, and that was kind of like on Tuesday or maybe even Wednesday, so quite late. Like it wasn't like it was one of these opening lines. It disappears, within sort of half an hour of coming out. So it stuck around for a little while, and then it's obviously Otago now favourites, and I think it's kind of interesting to me because I think this one is a coin flip. My inclination is actually to bet Bay of Plenty. I think they are, and I feel like I sort of say this every week, but I think they're just a really good team and a really underrated team, a well-coached team. I think Otago are good and have been good this year, and the thing that would kind of keep me completely off this game is I've talked about it in previous weeks, but when I have a look at my kind of tracking in terms of teams where, from a model perspective, like I'm right or wrong on, fading Otago has not been a profitable thing to do. So that's would keep me off kind of backing Bay of Plenty. But that's the side that in the absence of anything else, that I would look towards. But I think this is probably I like the overs in this game, and that's an unusual spot because normally in playoff games, I think the under is the right side most of the time because I think it gets under accounted for, but maybe not so much in this game. So as I said, it's probably there's two things. One is that I'd like to back the Bay, but I know that fading Otago has not been profitable, and I'd like to take the over, but I know that in playoff games that can quite often blow up in your face. So this is, I talked right in the beginning that I maybe wouldn't place any bets at all this weekend, and that's obviously for personal reasons, but this is a good example of a game that I would probably end up staying away from for a variety of different reasons.
Well, I've done the show many times. Sometimes I'm not prepared on some games as others, but just being on the show and actually starting to think about it for the first time, things start to come into place, and all of a sudden I actually have a view. In a couple of minutes after discussing with the guys, also know what's going on. I actually wanted to ask you about the points. I like that point, as you know. I look at that line and my lips are licking here. Because I wanted to ask you, because even for a semi-final, this points line does seem a little bit low. I mean, even for NPC that has been seeing a bit of lower scoring games, I think that 54. I think Otago games, if I'm not mistaken, I took Otago points last week, was a high scoring game. I think Otago on points is a points high team scoring team this year. So I also quite like the overs. Admiral, have you been betting NPC? Have you got any strong views on this game?
No, I don't follow NPC at all. To be honest, this is the first game I actually looked at the team sheets. I know this isn't opinions. I know nothing about it, but just from watching Super Rugby, I assumed Otago would be favourites. Just looking at the names that I know. I mean, I don't know half the names because they don't play. Some of them don't play Super Rugby, but no, I know nothing about NPC. Yeah,
sure, no worries. We can move on to the next one. It's Canterbury and Hawke's Bay. I suppose I'll say Admiral. Do you have any views? Otherwise, I'll pass it back to Nathan.
No, nothing.
No, all right, Nathan. You got any thought about any of this on this one? About anything?
I think that Admiral's comment though, just about the name recognition, is an interesting one, because it's when I was talking about Bay of Plenty being underrated, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why, because the names on the Otago team sheet, even over the last few years, have always been names that you'd recognise because they were Highlanders players. But the Highlanders obviously haven't been great, and Otago have not been great either. So this is probably a little bit of a bounce back season for Otago in the sense that they've been kind of rubbish at NPC level maybe for 3-4 years. Like really not good. Even though you'd look at the team and go, oh, they should be better than what they are, and I don't know why the reason that is. Whereas Bay of Plenty, especially in the back line, and I've mentioned this before, but you guys might not have heard it. So the New Zealand Sevens team are based in Mount Maunganui, which is in Tauranga, where Bay of Plenty are. So you quite often end up with this kind of fairly solid forward pack, and then a backline which is full of sevens players who are kind of playing NPC in the gap when sevens is not being played. So they're actually really good players, but they're just playing in a completely different competition. And I don't follow sevens, so a lot of people wouldn't know who they were.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big Jonah Nareki fan. I've always snuck a few little try score bets on him every now and then. He was normally quite good for it. But yeah, as you said, the Otago, like I said, Otago was one of the teams I attacked for unders, funny enough, previous seasons, because they were a very messy, sloppy team, right? They seem to have turned it around this year, and they found some form and playing much better attack in rugby. And I think Bay is your team, right? If I'm not mistaken, I heard you say last week, one of your teams.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I also like Bay of Plenty. Like I say, by Bay of Plenty or Waikato, generally, the previous seasons when I have been doing well was catching them at home. They'd often break the 30, 35 point barrier at home, but not so much this season, eh? You hadn't spoken about Canterbury yet, eh? Yeah.
No. So this one, again, it's kind of in a funny way unfortunate the way that the fixtures have fallen, because Canterbury are on the opposite side of the ledger in terms of being a red team for me in terms of backing. So I think they had a hot start to the season and then they've kind of underperformed. So not covered. I think backing them in the last few games has probably blown up in your face for that one reason as well. So if I was going to, I would be looking to Canterbury here. But as I said, I've got two other factors. That it's one is that the Canterbury in the red, as I said, and also just that the kind of the semi-final factor, which in general says I think the underdogs cover. So, but I like the under in this game, and I think the thing is that I think Canterbury are not probably going to blow Hawke's Bay off the park here, but I think they can shut them down defensively. But it's already a low points line, and I think part of that is that there is the potential for a bit of rain around. But even still, it'll be interesting because 51.5, I've seen numbers slightly higher than that, and you get into these situations where I think when bookmakers are kind of pricing these things, they struggle to price like a really long tail. So they'll look at something and they'll post a line that is low by their normal standards. So you'll see points lines that range from around about here, sort of 51 up to say 60 or 62, and that's the range. And they won't generally go outside of that range. And so even if this game is going to be an absolute rock fight and 15-10 or something like that, they would never price it that low. And so I think often there's value just in pricing finding value in the tails. And speaking of finding values in tails, so shout out to there's a guy, he goes by Sports Better in the forums, but his name is Dave B. I don't know what his last name is, but he's a Kiwi, and I've swapped a few emails with him. But that's his specialty. He finds value in the tails. I don't know his background, but I think he's pretty mathematical. I think he's possibly comes from some sort of stats background. He'll probably let me know at some point if he's listening to this. I know he watches the show, but he seems to be able to find the mispricings in these long tail kind of events, and he'll take the long shot sort of underdogs, or he'll take the big outsiders with a small plus. So he's risking a little to win a lot. And that seems to really work for him. So it's just interesting, having people with different methods and how they do it. But I think it's kind of an example of these long tails where this game could easily finish with 40 points, but you'll never see a line of 40.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Sam, I'll be looking at the points. I think I'll have a look at weather as well. I haven't looked at the weather yet, to be fair. And as Canterbury have also one of these teams that have caught me out on the unders. They go when they go and they're in full flow. They're really good, but they are prone to some low scoring games as well. I've noticed even at home. I've seen some messy games from them. Even though they get the job done with the win, but it's not always impressive as you would think it is. But anyway, Farid says your points are good bet here as well, and also says Bay versus Bay in the final. Yeah, fair enough. All right, we'll move on to URC, of course. And the first game we got up tomorrow with obviously team sheets, which is give us a bit more better information to call these games. I'll start with you, Admiral. Edinburgh, I know you've liked Edinburgh so far this season. I think you probably like this number as well, potentially. So, yeah, what have you got for us? What are you thinking on this one?
Yeah, it is where I capped it. But when I do the games at the start of the week, I sort of, unless I have good reason to, I assume they're going to play their full team. And then the team came out today from Benetton. It's not a bad team, but just the fact that they're missing the Canones, both of them, Menoncello, that's Lina, Ferrari, the prop. It's the players definitely that they're missing. That's important, but it's also the message it sort of sends that we don't really care about the away games. It has sort of been what they've done over the past couple of years, where they've been very strong at home. When they go away, it's sort of, we'll see if we can get a result. The reason that I'm not big on Edinburgh here is 10 is quite a lot, but it's also a little bit because of the halfbacks. I'll be honest, I have not heard of the 10 before till today. I think his name's Cammy Scott or something. And then the 9, I hear good things about. I forgot his name. Anyway, he's meant to be a good player, but it's sort of an untested halfback partnership. Sort of, if it was Velicott and Healy, say, at halfbacks for Edinburgh, I would be telling you, I'd be all over the minus or the unders or something like that. Those halfbacks, I don't know, would sort of cool me off a little bit. If I was to have a play here, the Benetton points line will be about 20. You might get 21, you might get 19. I think that's a runner, to be honest. Like they haven't sent out a great team. And I'm not sure they're too bothered whether if it was be anything, yeah, I'd take Benetton unders, but this isn't the game I'll be having a big bet.
All right, yeah, thanks. I think you're breaking up just a bit. I'm catching most of it. I don't know, Nathan, if you're experiencing the same thing, but I did catch most of it. But I'm just letting you know there is a little bit of some connection interference there, so I'll just let you know if anything happens. But I did catch most of it. Nathan, you got any thoughts? I agree. I absolutely agree. As a punter myself, I'm always wary of the 9-10 combo, and I've made bets on who the 9-10 combos are because that is the whole rhythm of games sometimes, and some teams cannot get their rhythm going. Do you feel the same way, or what's your views on this game?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's key positions I think you always look at, and I think those are definitely amongst them. So yeah, as I said in the beginning, it's probably the worst weekend for me in terms of trying to do any kind of research. So like normally I'd be across any of the teams that had already been announced, but I haven't seen that. I think it's a bit of a struggle to want to go on the minus here with a points line that seems quite low as well. You know, it does often feel like in a low scoring game, if that's how it's shaping up, you're trying to thread the needle a little bit on the minus. You know what I mean? So yeah, the names, and having not seen the team sheet, but the names that you read out for Benetton, like if you told me nothing but that, I would have said, okay, they seem to have be throwing in the towel here because they are some of the top names in that team. And it is one of the strange kind of things that goes on, I guess, in this competition, like that it's such a long season and so in a way kind of disjointed in that they'll have other competitions coming in, like there'll be, when they're planning, they're thinking about Italian international games, they're thinking about European games, and it's kind of like whether they sit down and look at the fixture list and they just circle some and go, yeah, no, we're not going to care about this one. It does feel like that sometimes. So which makes it challenging, for bettors, because you're trying to, in a way, price motivation, which you don't expect to, right? Like a lot of the time, you expect teams to be at the start of a season, like now, week 4 or whatever we're in, to be max motivated, but unfortunately it doesn't seem to pan out that way.
Yeah, I think URC, I do find URC tricky myself, always have, and I think it's also becoming a very home away league, almost like the top French league, like almost home team.
Pro D2,
it feels like it's becoming that. I mean, But also you just think, you know, like you look at the Stormers, Leinster, first game of the season, and you watch the Leinster versus Sharks, and it's a completely different everything. And it's like 3 weeks difference between the two games. So to read the team sheets and the motivation, and you know, I mean, the first teams are so much stronger. I find it difficult. I find my bets when I see players in form, and I have some kind of gauge on the lineup. So that's why URC are really battle.
Yeah, but it is tricky though, because I was, you know, I'm obviously across like looking at the All Blacks fixtures, you know, just, you know, out of interest, seeing when's the next game coming up, and you know that game in Chicago was 2 weeks ago, right? And some of these guys have not played a game for Leinster yet that are going to be playing in that game. It's like, you know, so, and they've come back from Lions tour. I guess they go on a little bit of a holiday, come back, start training, play maybe one game for Leinster, and then they might be rested for the following week, because you don't want to play them the week before the international. So like you know, literally you've come back, you play one game for Leinster, and then you're playing for Ireland. Like that seems to be how it's going to shape up. It seems mad in some ways, like.
Yeah. Well, see, that's for me. I know we got to make a top in terms of punting, and that's why I've made a few bitch and moans on about Super Rugby and all that. And maybe it's not I don't horribly dislike the URC, but in Super Rugby, 10 weeks, strength per strength, I knew the players so well. You know, through the whole competition. Then I move into Currie Cup. It's pretty much strength per strength through the Currie Cup, and in between's internationals, and it's the best team. So I was always used to this. You know, nine months of rugby, most of the time the teams are at full strength, and I could gauge form so much better than I'm finding at the moment since basically COVID, and the tournaments have changed, and the schedules have changed. So it's just so much rugby. So it's like these guys have to get through, and the motivation levels and all of that. But anyway, that's just a side point of why I also prefer the internationals as well these days, because I can trust the internationals far more than the domestics. But anyway, talk about trust. Here's two teams I've hardly ever trusted and never probably will. Dragons versus Cardiff. I'll let you go, Admiral, if you want.
Yeah, I trust someone here.
Good.
It doesn't sound good. I really like the Dragons here. I think this is a good spot for them.
Whoa.
They like we were talking about, they threw in the towel last week against Glasgow. I mean, they dropped 10 starters, and they brought them all back. The whole front row has changed. It's now sort of the two props are sort of experienced internationals, and the hooker's a good player. They brought back a second row. They brought back two back rows. One of them, Aaron Wainwright. The halfbacks have changed. Rio Dyer's back in the team. It's a whole new team from last week, and then they're still the Dragons. They're still not brilliant, but 8.5 at home against Cardiff is a pretty big number for Cardiff. I mean, historical head-to-head is not something I would tend to look at in sort of a normal league game, but for derbies, I do a little bit. And if you were to go back, like these guys play each other home and away twice, or one home game, one away game each year. And so they've played 10 years, so it's 13 years they've been playing it in Rodney Parade and Newport, and Cardiff haven't covered 8.5 in those 13 years. Since 2012 was the last time Cardiff covered an 8.5 in Newport. And I don't really have any reason to suspect that would change. I mean, Cardiff have brought back players as well. They've got Falatau back in, Josh Adams. Cardiff are the better team for sure. But 8.5 is quite a lot. I mean, the Dragons, the reason they threw in the towel last week was because this is a game where they feel like they can get a win. Now, I don't think they're going to get a win, but I think anything you get above plus 7.5, anything above a score, I think is a take. Yeah. And then the points as well. I think the points are too high. I think by between sort of I'd say 5 points too high. Again, looking ahead, to have turned it into a brilliant attacking team in the 3 games they've played. Like, they were defensively solid, which is good for the unders, but with the ball, they didn't look great. I mean, against Connacht, it was awful. Munster, they were grand, and then Lions the first week, nothing special. So yeah, I think I couldn't even. I would have no idea how someone can make an argument for overs here. I think under is definitely the play, and anything plus 7.5 and above is a take for the Dragons, I think.
Yeah, I remember. Like I said, like we're just saying, I don't always have a view on a game, and I didn't have this one. And you've pretty much almost talked me into Dragons there with that logic. It makes sense. And actually, now that you've spoken about it, I remember these games. This is a spot that Dragons usually get themselves up for. Welsh derbies as well. But I do remember what you've said about them not covering. You're right, because I've followed these Welsh derbies. I don't necessarily bet on them, but you are right. That is a high cap, and I think this is a spot to be on the Dragons. I don't know how you feeling after that, Nathan. What any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Cardiff, I've been certainly from my view, have been wildly like inconsistent. Like I'd love to have if we had a tipping comp that was just like every week Cardiff, and like see by the end of the year, like, who was able to actually like to consistently be on the right side of any game involving Cardiff. But I do know from having looked at kind of score distributions that home teams do rarely lose by more than 8. So 8.5. It's a key number in a couple of different ways. It's around that kind of bonus point kind of area, and around that 8. So I agree that 8.5 does actually feel like a lot in a derby game like this, where these things can just easily turn into like a dockyard brawl type situation. Sometimes the better team, they'll still take their eye off the ball because it gets scrappy, and the crowd get into them and that kind of thing. So yeah, can absolutely see that.
Yeah, I don't know if you thought about, because I don't know what the situation is in Wales, because I think there is pretty much certainty that they are possibly losing teams, right? And looks like Dragons are definitely on the cards with Lelethni or Scarlet, I believe I heard. And
Yeah,
there's I know some punters that these guys are playing, as I said, playing for their careers. I mean, I'm sure they'll get contracts elsewhere. But I kind of also remember when the Rebels were phasing out Super Rugby, they actually had quite a good last season with players seemingly playing. So yeah, I wouldn't be writing off the Dragons. I think there might be some players playing for egos and future contracts. So I think the motivation will be there for the Dragons. So hopefully they will come through. And I think this year at 8.5 points, you're right. That is a bit high. Talk about home teams. We go into the next game. Connacht is a team I certainly like to back over the years. We've got the Bulls coming there. They're basically a pick 'em. Bulls are on the minus half a point. No Pollard this week. I know I've seen some of the changes there, but yeah, what Nathan? Do you have any thoughts on this game?
Well, I mean, Pollard, he played last week, right?
Yeah. What did I say? Did I say he's
no,
not
you did, but I was just thinking about last week's result and thinking that, like, is that a big loss? Like in some ways, and it's not trying to be disrespectful to the guy, but like I ask myself from time to time whether he's actually washed up, like and he he was kind of a big name signing at Leicester, and from where I was viewing things, didn't really have a big impact at Leicester. He's had a long career, really good career. He's probably been through the ringer a lot. Switched teams a lot in recent years. Just like I'm just wondering how far away from retirement he actually is. So, but anyway, that's kind of by the by. There's I don't know if Admiral's trend around teams on the second leg of these trips extends to the South African teams as well. I think you've kind of looked at it the other way around. But I don't know if you've looked at. Have you also looked at teams playing in Europe?
I haven't. I don't know why I haven't, but no. They think they tend to be 3-legged games as well, which sort of throws in another another element to it. But,
yeah. I mean, this one will probably be quite team dependent as well. There's I guess there's two ways to look at it, right? So one is that it's the second leg, they kind of rotate. I guess the other thing to look at is that they probably were expecting to get more out of this than what they have thus far, having not even picked up a bonus point last week, and so they'll come and sort of play hard. I'm kind of I'm sort of on the fence about this one. I think it's going to be very much team dependent, team lineup dependent.
Yeah, I think this should have been the line last week, to be honest. I know Bulls picked a strong team, but I've given up all confidence in Bulls away from home. And even, I wouldn't be backing them at Connacht. I don't know about you, Admiral. What are you thinking?
I am going to. Last week it was. I took the Bulls early, and I think it was on Monday or Tuesday, and by Thursday I didn't like it, but I stuck on for a bit because at the time it had moved the right way for me, and in the end it drifted the wrong way. They got hammered, bad bet, but I didn't get to see the game live, but I watched it back, and if you had asked me through 45 minutes who was the better team, the Bulls were definitely the better team. It was 7-7, and the Bulls had spent most of the first half a lot of the first half camped in the Ulster half in 22. They got a try. Ulster's try wasn't lucky, but it was a bit of a breakaway try. It sort of didn't reflect how the game had gone. And then Ulster blew them away. 12 minutes, 3 tries, game over. This week, I think it'd be a little bit different. There's been a lot of talk in the Bulls camp about their defence, that they shipped a lot of points in the first 3 games. I mean, Leinster was over 30. I think the Ospreys got 40, and Ulster nearly 30. So talk isn't talk is just talk. But when they're emphasising, there's a couple of the players come out and sort of spoke about the defence this week. You'd expect maybe a little bit sturdier. I think that the tight 5, Ulster's tight 5 is pretty good. They're not a great team, but their tight 5 is really good. Connacht's strength is not in the tight 5. The Bulls are just levels ahead of them in that position. Funny enough, the back row, I think Connacht's back row is much better, which is unusual because the Bulls are missing a good few of their players there. But it's the tight 5, and it's the bounce back for me for the Bulls, which they started at +5. Money keeps coming for Connacht. I think a lot of the reason is that people are seeing a name like Pollard not playing. Andrew Pollard's a much better player than Keegan Johannes. That's not up for discussion, obviously. But I don't think the name is as big as the impact yet. Like he's only just joined. Like Keegan Johannes, I think someone said it there. I think, and Henrik said it on Twitter actually. Keegan Johannes suits the sort of the Ackerman style of we're going to outscore you, whatever you score better. But he's only been there for a week, and I know you like your NFL, but when you've a new quarterback, it's not quite the same. But it takes a while. You can't expect week 2 for them to be clicking.
How big is the Bulls playbook? Has it got,
Yeah. Well, I think hopefully this week it'll be pretty simple. We're going to beat you up on the tight 5. Because that's where their strength is. Connacht have their lines back as well. So Aki, Hansen, Beelum. Bundy Aki is when he's playing for Ireland, when he's on song, he really is sort of he actually might be one of the best players in the world. But when he's in the right position for Connacht, he's not quite the same. I don't think he's not as impactful for whatever reason it is. I'm not sure, but I think again the name of Bundy Aki is bigger than the impact he has on Connacht. So I'm going to keep waiting. More people can pile on the Connacht. They can make them -2, -3, and then I'll take the Bulls about an hour before kickoff. If you'd like a plus and a money line, I'd be happy enough to take it as it is with whatever. You'd probably get the Bulls at 1.8 or something. I'd be happy enough with that. I think the Bulls money line is the way to go here.
Good confidence shout there, Admiral. I'm unfortunately not. I just still worry about. I've made comments that Bulls defense worries me, especially on the road. I just think they probably will score points, but I think they will give I think it's going to be a very close game, but I think they probably are the better side. So if you want to, I always prefer to back the better side. But like I said, man, this talk about URC, it's humbled me completely because 3 years ago I would have been back in the Bulls with my eyes closed and walked the dog. But I've been burnt so many times with South African teams on the road now, so I cautiously tread into these games. But good shot. The Bulls bounce back. I think I like that spot as well. I think they do. They're also a team that bounce back hard, and if they do, their quality should outshine Connacht and get the win. Hopefully, for Bulls fans. Moving on to Lions. Stay with you, Admiral. I don't know if there's teams. Because I know the Sharks teams. I haven't seen any Lions teams. So I don't know if you know anything about the Lions team or anything about this game, or you got views on this game.
There might be a Lions team out. I haven't seen it. When I was sort of doing my sort of work for this week, and I've got all the games, I have Lions Scarlets -10 or 11, and I've just written in capital letters, no chance. I'm not back. They're both terrible. I don't know who's more terrible. I mean, the Scarlets are missing last week they were missing half their team and they got absolutely hammered. They've been terrible the first two games that week 2 postponed. The Lions didn't look great. It just feels like I don't know. It feels like with the coach, Cash Van Ryan, it feels like, I don't know, the beginning of the end. Maybe there's a lot of sort of weird comments coming out of their camp. So yeah, I think maybe when the teams come out tomorrow, and if Scarlets are again missing like half their pack and half their back line, maybe I'll back the Lions. But minus 10 or 11 for not a good team is not something. I just what I'm looking for is a good Scarlets performance here. And maybe they win, maybe they keep them close, but they've got the Sharks next week, and I think they'll just fall apart if they have a good performance here next week. I think they're going to fall to pieces. So I'm not going to back anything. I'm going to root for the Scarlets for next week's purposes.
Perfect. And Nathan, any views yourself?
Yeah, I didn't think the Scarlets were that bad against Munster, because I thought Munster were good. But the thing is that loss is kind of like not aged well. Because in the early part of the season, you're often still trying to figure out how good teams really are. And, I think maybe I thought Munster were better than what they were, which makes that Scarlets performance not look as good. And they have compiled a few injuries under normal circumstances. Like if I thought the Scarlets were going to field a half decent team, then I'd be looking at the plus here, because I think in general Scarlets have been a good team to back, and I wouldn't trust the Lions to cover a cap this big. But yeah, I think it's just the injuries like to the Scarlets. I just don't know what kind of team they're gonna roll out, and they didn't provide you with a lot of confidence last week. So yeah, I think possibly staying away from this. But I think this would be one of these games that backing the Lions on the minus is like you'll kick yourself later. Why did I do that?
Yeah, this is again a matchup like when I used to think when going lead into URC, and I probably never watched the Scarlets, or probably didn't think much of it, thinking of them as one of the low of the Welsh teams. And I think, okay, Lions, at Ellis Park, Lions put 35 points against the Chiefs, and surely the Chiefs will put 50 on Scarlets. So surely the Lions are going to come in and win 40 points against the Scarlets. Then the match arrives, and like you say, it ends like 32-10. The points haven't been covered, but the Lions have smashed the cap at the end of the day, and off the Scarlets off go into the next game. So the reading of it was been very difficult for me. So I agree. I mean, usually I'm sure if Brent was on the show, he'll be saying I'm eyeing the points at Ellis Park in this matchup. But I think actually the minus is probably the right approach, because there is a chance the Scarlets don't add the scoreboard. But then again, lots of people have been going to the Lions and have been putting points on. But yeah, tricky game, not one I'm not so sure about myself. But we'll move on to the next one. Admiral, the Sharks got quite a pretty potent side there. We've seen it. This line's moved around. I know I've seen what you're on, but yeah, give us your thoughts for the people you haven't seen or heard them.
Yeah, we're in week 4, and at the end of last year, I was like, no, not anymore. No more Sharks games. It keeps going wrong, and this will be the 4th week in a row I'm going to be involved in a Sharks game. It'll be the 3rd time in a row I've backed them. Yeah, I'm on -9 here. I mean, it's pointless looking at the team sheet. There are 17 Springboks in the team, and I think there's 12 World Cup winners, and the majority of them are double World Cup winners, and they're playing Ulster, who are missing their best player, who've just travelled down. And we're not going to be surprised if they sort of scrape a 3-point victory out. But no, I think a big factor that maybe isn't being considered is the Sharks were just up north, and so those players have travelled back down. But the Boks who play sort of the Khaleesi, Etzebeth, Mbamambi, he was playing Vincent Koch, Oxenjay. Those guys didn't travel. They came back. They came back home after the Twickenham game, and so I don't know if the bookies have. I assume the bookies would normally factor in travel, but I would be surprised if they've factored in travel for half the team, but not the other half of the team, if you know what I mean. So I think that's a little bit of a bonus for the Sharks. But I mean, Ulster started the season well. I think they have the Lions next week. I would assume. I know I talk about the second game in South Africa, but I think that has to be the game they're targeting. I would imagine they'll still put out a good team, but again, as I said, missing Cormac Achukwu, who's their best player. and they're so outgunned everywhere else. It would just sort of feel wrong not to take. I have -9 when you have the much better team who are rested, playing at home, 12 hours away from Belfast. Yeah, I'm on -9, and if it loses, fair enough. But yeah, they're like it's like a toxic relationship. The Sharks. You just keep going back.
Yeah,
I'm 2-1 on them this season, so I am up from them. So Saturday evening.
Exactly. If you've been backing them, they have been covering. So, and like we said, that team looks awesome on paper. But we've said before, we've seen the results, we've seen the potential culture and coaching issues that might be there. But every ounce you thought like you. I cannot. I'm not opposing the Sharks. I'll probably. This is too low. I don't want to curse. I said I want to join the show. I did this last time, and I cursed the Stormers out of a big win against Ospreys, whatever it was. But yeah, I like the Sharks as well. I've said this before. Generally, as a punter myself, I hate fading quality players, even if there might be some reasons to possibly do that. But this looks like a bad mismatch and spot all around. So -10 for me. I like the -10.
I would just say if there's anybody backing Ulster, make the argument for me, because I don't see the argument to say that Ulster are more likely to keep in single digits.
Well, we maybe should get Johan on the show to give us his views. He's made this comment. I think he's a Lions supporter. I don't know if I can work it out, but that we have to validate that one. But yeah, Nathan, after what we've said, what have you got your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Sharks covering, but like last week, it really depended on the number that you got, right? Like I think it opened 26.5 and closed 21.5. So,
that's true. That is true. That is very true.
Yeah, so didn't cover that one, but yeah, and I think that's an interesting question actually. Like I don't know if with you guys, Admiral, what percentage of your bets do you think are at the opening number or close to it that you're making sort of within, especially with URC, say for example, like within the first hour of those numbers coming out?
The first hour 0, because when I don't know what you have, but when Bet365 released the lines and they do the three-way handicap at first and the three-way limits, not the mine are particularly big, but I think they're quite hawkish on seeing there's no liquidity in the three-way market. So I try to wait, and in general I try and stay off Monday betting, even if I have a fancy, just to sort of like let a little bit of money come. Like unless I see, I think for week 1, for example, I knew that Glasgow were playing the Sharks. The line was just wrong, and I backed Glasgow on Monday. So if I think the line is just way off and it's going to get blown up, I'll take it. But where as much as possible, where even if I see something I like on Monday, I just leave it at least even until Wednesday or Thursday when there's a little bit more liquidity in the market. Just to sort of some of it for account health and some of it to sort of just not blow up. I mean, another thing for me is that sometimes when I tweet things and like I don't know, it only takes 2 people to sort of who are big bettors to sort of just explode the line, and then it's blown out too far. That's more me thinking for other people. But yeah, in general, I used to be more of a Monday punter. It's getting later in the week as I go on.
Yeah, but so I just basically I like to have all information as possible. I do sometimes kick myself if I've missed an early line, but I don't hold on to it or get upset about. Or not say kick myself, but like I don't hold on to it. I like to have as much information right up until kickoff. For instance, Sharks versus Leinster kickoff, and I've said this before, and it has worked for me many times. The pre-game, the guys are on the side of the field, and one guy said the Sharks are dropping balls that don't even look like they want to be here. And when I hear things where professional players talk about other players like that, I go off. I change my bet, and Sharks came out completely cold. And I've done. It's happened to me a few times. I'm not saying that all the time. It's if I'm watching, but I try to get as much information as possible as well. Like even right up to 10 minutes before kickoff, if I can, before I might go confident. And you, Nathan, I know you're a bit of an early punter. I think you'd like to get on some early lines.
It completely depends, really. Like in some competitions, you can. Because there's good injury information, like you can kind of, or I can predict the lineups, but what tends to happen over time is that just your your options for betting early in the week just get reduced. Like, I mean, the reality is, and I know this, is that if you want to bet big, like proper big, like you're probably not going to be able to do it until game day. I mean, that's the reality. Like like I know from having talked to and worked with like professional kind of moving groups, that a lot of the time they actually can't really help you until game day. And the truth is that there's only really a handful, maybe even less, of places that are even up on a Monday, that, and I'm talking about, bookmakers that actually have a real pulse, like, not, because there's some of them that if you bet on a Monday, they might shut your account down after like 5 bets or something. Like it can be as restrictive as that. So I think it depends where you are in your journey, but the reality is, like, any kind of real size, like, a lot of people will tell you, I can't help you unless you're betting on the day of the game. Like maybe 12 hours, you might scrape in 16, but over 24, your options are definitely reduced. So so it's kind of interesting, because it's like when you're talking about that Monday liquidity, is that you're thinking, do you mean like in terms of the limits? Like, do you know what the limits are on a Monday?
I don't know the number, but they're low. I mean, especially, I know on the three-way, I don't know the number, but they're very low for the first hour. So, and when it's the three-way in general, other bookies, I don't know what it's like in New Zealand, South Africa, but other books will wait until 365 relates to the two-way lines, I think. And so you only have one option for that for the first 2 or 3 hours, and it's a low limit option. So you're just better. I think you're just better off. Like, there are rare occasions where there may be, like, they could be, if they're 10 points off the line, where they're just completely wrong, then maybe, but in general that doesn't happen very often. And so I wait as long as possible, but I'm definitely not a full game day punter. I mean, you'll see tonight, I'm gonna have most of my money down by tonight.
Nice.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think if you I mean, there's only a few places that actually have posted limits, so you know exactly what it is, like when you're trying to do it. With 365, it's definitely like on a Monday, and because there are no posted limits, right? You don't know if what you're seeing is the same as what other people are seeing. But like I know that if you want to get referred to trader on a Monday, I think £200, which is probably what, 250 euro, like maybe 250 US dollars, that will get you probably just under the limit. Anything more than that, I think you'll get referred to trader on a Monday for that. So part of the skill is like actually knowing where that limit is, and you could say you've got the two-way market and the three-way market, and for whatever reason, they're obviously just looking at them as different markets. So just betting into both, like if you need to, just to increase the fill size that you can get. So you do have to get creative, sometimes. But you're right. Like those are not big numbers. Like those are small limits, and and unfortunately, like that's the kind of thing it's going to get you noticed as well. So it's a real cat and mouse game.
Yeah, I think that there's sort of benefits, like Chris, for me and you, we don't have models or anything. We don't have numbers. It is just our opinion at the end. We don't like to say it, but it's a good feeling at the end of the day. It's just our opinion. It's not backed up by numbers. And so I think the fact, like, I don't think, let's say you took the amount I knew about rugby and you changed it into the amount I knew about basketball or NFL, I don't think I'd make a profit. I think they're much better. They're much sharper. I don't know, maybe I know you do your NFL, so maybe you'd be able to. Soccer, I watch a lot of soccer or NFL or basketball. I wouldn't make a profit just off my opinion. I don't think. They're too sharp in those sports. So that's the trade-off. I think rugby, the limits are lower, but it's easier.
Yeah, no, yeah, 100% right. Like, I mean, and it's they talk about it in all different forms of gambling, right? There's like finding a weak counterparty, and effectively, like that's what you're doing by betting into this market, right? It's like if you were playing poker, there's like a thing where you could work on your game, get more skillful, and go and play in, big tournaments and do all that kind of stuff, or you just find a weak game against guys who can't play, and you try and clean up in those weak games. You just find the right game to play in, and I guess that's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah. For NFL, I would tell you, to be honest, so you used NBA and NFL, which I have been betting recently. So I watch a lot of highlight patches. I follow a lot of podcasters. I've got a network of punters in America that I follow now, which I have direct communication with, and I study hours of it in the weekend in between the rugby, and I've actually just formed a pool of knowledge that I know and trust, and if I listen to it carefully, I will 70% of what I come to will come of what I hear from them. But because I've now learned so much from them or how they are, I generally can form myself a decent opinion, and I really enjoy NFL now. I think I almost sometimes feel I sometimes have better weekends on the NFL on a Sunday these days. Just I think maybe it's because I spend so much more time. Maybe I'm a bit laxy now with rugby because I think I know my rugby well enough, and then maybe I'm just investing more time. But the NFL is stats. I've said I'm not that numbers driven, but a lot of the guys are stats driven, and it is a stats driven sport. Matchups are so important. Who's marking who in the defense lines and the attack lines and the wide receivers and the safeties and all of that matters because matchups matter in NFL and NBA. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it. It's one of my favorite betting sports. We are chatting away nicely here, guys. I hope the people who are listening are enjoying it. I'm sure there are some people are sticking around. but I don't even know if I even got your Sharks view there. Did we have that?
Yeah, I think we've covered that.
Okay.
I think.
All right, Leinster Munster. Okay, yeah. Well, I know I'm very negative about the URC, but I do enjoy myself an Irish derby, and this is one I love. This is one I'll probably be watching. I haven't obviously teams-wise again haven't seen them, but they matter to me. But Leinster -14, Admiral. It's your team, right? 14 seems like a high number with this Munster team and a derby. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, funnily enough, they never released the teams early. I assume they agreed between the two of them. The teams are out for this. They released them about 2:00 today.
Awesome.
Right.
The teams aren't that much of a surprise for this game ever. They're both they're full strength pretty much. Leinster's loosehead prop, Paddy McCarthy, he won't be a name you've heard of. I think I wouldn't be surprised to see him in green jerseys very soon. So he's starting prop, and then Craig Casey isn't playing for Munster. He's injured, so they've got backup in there, Ethan Coughlin. The cap. Munster are really outgunned in the tight five here. Leinster have a very strong tight five, and then on the bench there's Dan Sheehan and. What else? The bench is very strong as well. Sheehan was the name that jumps out to you on the bench. So they're going to struggle there, Munster. It's a hard game to read because Leinster have only played one game. This team has played one game. The two games in South Africa where we got whacked. There's pretty much no one playing from that game. So the only game we've seen this Leinster team play was last week, and how much you're really going to learn from a game against the Sharks where the Sharks didn't really care. So it's hard to know how good Leinster are this year. They're good, obviously, but we don't know how good. Munster, I was expecting them to be better. Nathan referenced earlier on, I was planning on bringing it up here. They've had one good performance this season, week 1 against the Scarlets, and it's aged really poorly because the Scarlets don't look like a rugby team at the moment. And then round 2 against Cardiff, not good. Round 3 against Edinburgh, not very good either. If I had to pick a side on the cap, it'll be Leinster. But again, when it comes to Leinster Munster, I have strong allegiances, and I like one team, and I really don't like one of the others. So I stay out of the caps because I know I am biased. Whether it's I try to overcompensate or I'm just biased towards Leinster. What I do like here, it's not out, is the points. This fixture last year, the home fixture for Leinster, the points line was 50, which is too high. I have this game at 42, so you give me 45 or above. I think we'll struggle. This game is going to struggle to get to 40. Leinster are an unders team. I mean a total unders team where their defense is very, very good most of the time, and they're not like Toulouse and Bordeaux, but they're also not like say the Glasgow and the Bulls, where they sort of max out at about 35, 40 points in general. They don't either have the they're not either bothered or they can't sort of rack up huge scores. So Leinster, this won't be a case of Leinster win by 40 points. A big Leinster win would be sort of keeping Munster in single digits and Leinster score 30-something points. So I find it hard to sort of build a scenario where you get sort of 45 to 50 points in this game, because it would involve either Leinster scoring a load of points or Munster sort of getting over or close to 20, which 3 scores, 2 penalties, two scores, 2 penalties, or 3 scores. I think they're going to struggle, especially with that tight 5. I think they're going to struggle to get sort of a foothold in the game. So the cap, if you maybe choose, it'll be Leinster. But again, I don't know if I'm biased, but the points where I'm looking at, I'm expecting between 47 and 50 is where I think the line's going to come out, and I'm going to be on unders for that.
Yeah, great shot. I watch a lot of these Irish derbies, and I actually can't remember many of them going over 50. Just on
this
memory.
one in particular is.
I haven't looked. Even the Ulster-Leinster game would think would be more points, but often ends around the 20 points each, 1 score each side. You often have a good 20-30 minutes of hard, intense, messy rugby, and it kind of hits under. Yeah, Nathan, your views?
Yeah, look, I'd like to get to being able to back Munster at a number this big, but I can't get there. I think we talked about that Munster Scarlet game, and I think at that point we were thinking, look, this is the McMillan kind of playbook from the Chiefs, and it looked really good. But when I think about that, obviously things have gone downhill since then. But when I think about that game and the players that were like instrumental kind of in implementing that game plan, I think Craig Casey and Alex Nankivell were really key, and sort of shone in that performance and in that system. They're not here in this game, and I think that's a big negative. So like I'd like to get to a place where I felt like a back Munster, but it's not. It's not here, not this week. But it did get me thinking about like the Munster team total under, which I think might, if you're lucky, might be around sort of 15. Like I think if you could get something that was under, under sort of 14 and a half, for example, that might be a good place to look.
Yeah, that's so scary from my point of view. I don't know if I'll be doing that, but I agree. I want to be banking Munster as well. This number for an Irish derby, but you're right. I was also quite bullish on Munster early season, and you guys called it out there. They haven't really followed through with the sentiment that I thought they were going to have in the start of the season. But let's move to Zebra Stormers. So we're still got sentiment and teams. This is my team against a team that I vehemently dislike and never bet on or against for punting reasons. Great on them if they win a game, nice for them, but they're not going to win this one. But anyway, Nathan, do you have any views on this? I've got none.
God, I mean, hard to back against the Stormers here. The Oracle would probably tell you to take Zebre on the board, I think, in this spot. So,
possibly, yeah. -7 for value.
Yeah. I'd like to see if the Stormers are still going to roll out kind of the first team for this game. I think it was interesting because and the Admiral kind of touched on it, is that one of the things I was thinking of last week for the Stormers is that those Springbok players, Sasha and the others, wouldn't probably have gone home. So they would have already been in London after the Argentina game and just stayed on and just rolled straight into that Scarlets game. So for them, no travel, it would have been, wouldn't have been as disruptive. So I think that was probably a factor. It'll be interesting to see if they've obviously kept those guys here and roll them out again for this game, because I think if they do, I think 11.5 could look pretty small. Like I know Zebra are probably a little bit underrated, but it just feels like it 100% would not surprise me if they won by sort of 30 to 40. Like that would not surprise me at all. You wouldn't wake up in the morning, see that score, and go, "Oh, I'm shocked." Like it's interesting. I think in Zebra they kind of they like to try and play, and I think that could be to their detriment in a game like this.
Yeah, and then again, like talk about matchups, and I'm really not talking very loosely because I haven't seen the Zebra team and haven't seen them play this year. I think myself, I mean, how much better or worse are Zebra than the Scarlets at this point? And even if I did watch the Stormers game, I didn't even think they were very good anyway against that game. So I thought Sasha, he made as many mistakes as he did some good things. I think Sasha and obviously Willems are like just pure class in this environment. They really are. The 10 points almost difference straight away. Stormers' defense is obviously looking way better than it did last season. They've got that old championship win in defense again. So, yeah, will Zebra be able to get points? What do you reckon, Admiral? I mean, 11 probably does seem a little low if they bring out the big guns. What do you think?
Yeah, this is very team dependent. Zebra are becoming French. I know the Italians wouldn't like that, but they're becoming French. In fact, like last week, they just sacked it off against the Ospreys. They had no interest. I think a 24-point loss, they didn't score, but a 24-point loss isn't the end of the world for them. So Zebra will be full strength, and I'd be pretty sure of that. I'd be interested to see if Garcia, the Argentinian scrum half, is back, because I mean he's been playing for Zebra for not that long, but for a while. He's a bit of a find. He's an unbelievable player. But it's the Stormers team I would be interested in here, because they have Benetton next week, and Benetton at home, is a pretty big challenge for anybody. So it'll be interesting to sort of see what I think the team sheet. You'll get you'll find out a lot about what they think about this game and what they think about the next game, and also what their Springboks are thinking, because obviously their box have got. I don't know when their first game is in the autumn series or the spring series, I guess, for you guys.
First weekend of November, yeah.
I think they're starting a week later than.
Okay, so the day of the rest.
So it'd be three weeks.
Yeah, the 8th of November, yeah. I think.
Okay, yeah. I think some teams are going in 2 weeks' time and some starting in 3. It just depends.
South Africa play the last one as well. They're the only ones who play Wales in the last.
So if they roll out their first team here, this cap will blow out a bit. I think over 2 scores, and I think I would be tempted to exaggerate that. I think they're an underrated home team. I think they're getting pretty not that good. I know. I think they're getting good at home though. Now, saying that, I was thinking about, you were mentioning sort of Sasha in this situation. This game happened last year and the Stormers won by, I think, 50 points. I think it was 56-5 or something like that. Anyway, but if they roll out a sort of a weak team and they're saying, we don't care about this game, we'll probably win, but we're going for Benetton next week to sort of cap off an unbelievable start to the season. They beat 5 wins from 5. Yeah. I think that was sort of signal that Zebra can have a go at them here. If they sort of drop Sasha and Willems or something, Zebra can have a proper go at them here. And I wouldn't be doing an oracle, but I would be plus, and I would be beginning to think about it. But if they play a full team, I don't know. I'll see how far the cap gets blown out. But yeah, this is a team game, team sheet game. I think it'll be interesting to sort of see what Dobson's mentality is.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Shane, the schedule has been very kind for Stormers, didn't it? I mean, that Leinster second team up front was a brilliant one to get up first, and obviously Ospreys, they were the better side. They got the job done. Straight into a very weak Scottish side, and now Zebra. I'm not saying Zebra and Benetton are going to be poor. They obviously should give them a run for their money. But I think when you're saying the teams they're going to select, I'm hoping that they're taking this tour like an opportunity to really solidify themselves at the top of the log, take advantage of this. Why not? Guys are there. The guys are playing well off the books. Hopefully they put them away. So what are you saying? Is this your big brass balls bet of the weekend? Zebra plus?
No, no, it's not the biggest bet.
No, man, you could.
No, definitely not. No, because it could well end up like last year where Sasha
I know.
scores 8 tries or something like that.
And Nathan?
Yeah, I think I've already kind of commented on this one.
Oh,
but,
sorry.
No, that's cool. But I did kind of agree with what you said, that one of the things that I think happens in URC generally is that if you want to bank up a lot of points early in the season, if things are going well, because there's going to be a period in the middle part, like around that kind of December, November, December, across the Christmas period, where things are going to be really disruptive. And I think like the playing field kind of evens out, that it just becomes a bit of a crapshoot. And what tends to happen, and this is just my thinking, is that you kind of like, if you can start well, then you don't care about the middle period, and that it puts a little bit less pressure on you to try and build up points at the end when you're kind of jockeying to try and get into, home final positions in that top 8. Because I get the impression that there are certain teams, if they have a bad start to the season, then they kind of get to the end and they almost don't care. Like they've kind of given up on the entire season. It's unfortunate, but it just seems like there's too much disruption and almost too much to get overcome if you don't have a good start.
Yeah, and we also go on a break for this, for both for English Premier and this, right? They go on a break during this international period as well, which is.
I think if the Stormers, and this is going back to American sport, right? But in the NFL, teams, they get into this win now mode where it's like, okay, in the next 2 to 3 years, we think we can win a Super Bowl. We're going all in. It shows in different ways. They pick up free agents, they spend money, they do various things, to sort of show their hand. I think for the Stormers, like if they're actually serious about the season and they're thinking to themselves, like, we could make a final. Maybe we could win it this year. We've got a good team. We're in a good place. Then they probably will go hard for both of these games, and then they can coast a little bit, like all the teams seem to through the middle part, and put a little bit less pressure on themselves at the end. But and then the flip side is there'll be other teams who are thinking like, we're not going to win it this year. We're kind of just going to coast through and win our derby games, keep the fans happy, and that's good enough.
Yeah. Well, talk again. We're going back to American football, but talk about trends, and it's important about spots. Like often, like I say, when I listen to these guys, they'll say like there'll be probably a decent favorite on Monday Night Football, for instance. Say it'll be like, I know, Ravens against the Dolphins, but then the Ravens have got the Browns on the weekend. They will say that this is not a good spot for the Ravens.
Yeah, they're looking ahead to the Steelers.
Yeah, they often talk about this spot on a Monday night or a short week, or often talk, and then they say that team will often not beat the spread. It's like they'll go and say it's like a 13-3 against the spread trend there to watch out, and it often arrives, and that's what I'm saying. Like, spotting trends in NFL and American football is great. We're going to be digressing again. Let's go to Ospreys. Ospreys with Glasgow, the last URC fixture of the weekend. Nathan, do you want to kick us off if you've got any views?
Tricky. Like, I think in general, I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Ospreys, but at the same time, I kind of look at this number and knowing what I know about Glasgow when they're firing, and I know that possibly they kind of went over the top of a Dragons team maybe that had kind of quit, and prior to that maybe there were some performances that weren't as shining, shall we say, but it still seems like a low number to me for a Glasgow team, which I think is still like a class above most of the teams in this competition. So and I don't know that the Ospreys can match that. So like it's betting a home underdog is always a tempting thing, because I think it arrives more often than people realize. But this number's a bit low, so I'd look it towards Glasgow.
I totally agree. Depending again on the teams, but if Glasgow have anything but a half decent team, I think this could be a comfortable 10-15 point win at least. What do you think, Admiral? What are you thinking?
Yeah, to go back to spots, this was a spot when I saw these games on Sunday night last Sunday. I was thinking I'm going to get plus 7.5 there, and I'll be all over that. The three. If you're sort of rank the teams in tiers, not to sort of doesn't mean we're going to win, but I think Leinster clearly they're the best. They're sort of the best team. They tend to F it up at the end of the season, but there's just a different quality in them. And I think Glasgow and the Bulls are sort of on their own in the second tier. The Sharks should be there. That's another issue. But this Glasgow team, if they go full strength, because they have the Bulls next week, 3 is too low, I think. If it's a spot for rotation, then and like big rotation, then Ospreys have every chance of winning this game. But I don't think Glasgow will rotate, to be honest. It's an away trip, but it's about a 5-hour drive. It's not a big away trip. So I'll see with the teams. If I see Tupilado and Hastings and Darge and all them out, yeah, I'll take Glasgow.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll be right in there with you as well. All right, thanks, guys. Sorry, Nathan.
No, I was just going to say I actually do need to drop off, but
okay, so you're not going to stick around for. Yeah, well, we've had a solid
I won't
show.
this week. That's probably my I've self-sabotaged myself by probably going on and on about some slightly divergent topics, but it's interesting stuff. I mean, I quite often say to Brendan, to the Oracle, it's it's sometimes the theoretical side of the betting or the the methodology around it, and also the execution side of it. We've talked a little bit about kind of limits and liquidity and these things and to me that's the really interesting part, because I genuinely think that nearly anybody could win, just picking off weak numbers, betting openers, jumping on team news. I genuinely think anybody with a pulse could actually win. The real trick, I think, is kind of like, how do you scale that? And some of the conversations that we've had about that have been pretty interesting. I mean, and Oracle stories about guys driving around in the back of a ute, visiting shops to try and get 10k down on a game, stuff like that. That's good stuff. That's these are some of the things that you actually start thinking about, and it's there's some good war stories. I could probably share some at some point.
I think we should have a show like that. Brent has actually spoken about many times, that we actually just have a show of shoots in the breeze on our punt and
absolutely. I could tell you some stories about some some things that you get up to and trying to put bets down. What I would call some maybe some edges that I've had in the past that I think I could share because they don't exist anymore. But people call them RICs, right? Where maybe the books have just completely mispriced something, and you kind of bet that as often as you can until it's gone. So those kind of stories are good. I like those stories. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Eddie. Obviously, they were super interesting, of course, and enjoyed having a chat with you. But anyway, before you go, do you have any best stick stand? I know you said you didn't possibly have, but has anything changed along the way in our chats? If there's any standout best bets of the weekend?
Yeah, I do think that Dragons Plus, I think is a good bet. I think Admiral really sold me. I'm not a big trends guy, but that one's pretty strong about the history of that number. So I do like that, and I do like Glasgow here. Obviously, it is very much team dependent. And if I could get a better number, I think I still look at the under in the Canterbury Hawke's Bay game, but as I said, it's not going to be a huge betting weekend for me. I've got a lot of other stuff going on at the moment, so yeah.
Well, awesome, Nathan. I think I'm totally aligned with you. Those are the two that are standing out for me, which is, I think, rare sometimes for us to be fully aligned. So yeah, hopefully it's not a jinx. But yeah, I'm fully with you on that one. But yeah, obviously great to see you, man. Yeah, and have a good weekend.
Nice one. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, cheers, Nathan. Cheers. How's it, Admiral? So yeah, I love our English Prem. So we can go through. Obviously, the show's been going on longer than we would have thought, but that's fine. We've still got people hanging around. But yeah, let's go through it. We got tomorrow Newcastle against Northampton. Terrible start to the glory boy. What's the word? The shiny new toy boys that they call the Red Bulls. But obviously they haven't started well. But I don't think their squad's they've got rid of their players, right? They haven't replenished most of the players that they got lost. So they haven't started well. Northampton, I love Northampton. I've always, you see me talk, I really love Northampton. Normally, whatever team they put out, I love the way they coach. They're so attacking. They're really gritty. Obviously, they've given away some points as well. So yeah, 16. I think this started lower, right? It was before team sheets came out. I think this has moved out quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it might have opened at 14, and then Newcastle got some money. I think maybe sort of anticipating a Saints reshuffle or something. I'm on the whatever. I think it's minus 13 or minus. I'm on the sort of earlier Saints minus when the teams come out. Newcastle. This is not the season where we're going to see the Prem coming to Newcastle. Maybe in 5 years it will, but I think this is we're going to clear out everything. We're going to sort of, I assume, get the recruiting team, or we're sort of going to get the background. We're going to get that working. I mean, they look like the worst team in the league who have fired their coach on week one. They are exactly what you'd expect from, on paper, by far the worst team. And Steve Diamond was a good coach.
Yes.
And so I assume they have some long-term plan of what they're going to do with that situation. But yeah, they look a bit of a mess at the moment. And the Saints, I mean, like Newcastle's games, they've got blown out by Exeter, blown out by Sale, and blown out by someone else.
Sorry, Saracens away, first game of the season.
Yeah, first game.
Yeah.
So I don't see a reason why Northampton, for me, probably the third or fourth best team in the league, they have every chance of winning this tournament, wouldn't go to Newcastle. I know it's away, but why they can't go up there and win pretty easily. They've got the whole thing out. Their bench is really strong. They're well coached, as you said. I used to love them, and then they beat my guys in the semi-final last year, so don't love them anymore. But they're a likable team. There's with one exception. I won't name him, but that young back row they have, I don't like him. But the rest of the team, Finn Smith, Alex Mitchell, Tommy Freeman, they're all really likable. Yeah, I'm very, very complimentary. Northampton, I think they're going to cover here.
I think Mitchell and Finn Smith have a field day in these conditions in English Prem at the moment. They really do look a class above. Mitchell doesn't really transform that form to England. A lot of players don't, if you actually think about it. I mean, players look so good in the England Prem, and then they don't put it in England for the English side. But they've got a nice side all around. They obviously lost Augustus, who's playing quite well for Ulster, but they've still got such a decent side. But as you say, on this team, I mean, if Newcastle hadn't made all the changes and they were settled, before they did all of this, this cap probably would have been only there wouldn't have been more than 10 last season if this was the same time last year. And also Newcastle, I've always never run in against. They always can dig their heels in. And also we said New Friday, like Tuesday nights at Stoke, it's like Newcastle on a Friday for the rugby team. They can really get their heels stuck in there. So I never dive head first, but the way the season's gone, this is easily a Saints blowout. That, like you said. I don't normally like that bit in the high minuses, but I can't find myself. You wouldn't find me even on the 16, even though that number's getting very high. But I'll look. I think the conditions are still fine. There's a storm coming through on Sunday, right? I think you've probably seen it as well. I think it's on Sunday. So I think it's probably be. Maybe Northampton points could be a thing there, or some tries. Again, team specific as well, right? Because when Northampton do play their second string, they do leak far more points than when they have their bigger boys. So I haven't seen the team, to be honest. Did you see that? I think Smith and them are playing, no?
Yeah, no, it's the full strength.
Then I think Northampton going to rack up 40 points here at least.
Yeah,
I think, for sure. All right, Gloucester, Bristol. This is an interesting one. I mean, Bristol. I like Bristol preseason, but they've just had such an horrendous start here with injuries and even. I mean, look, they battled through Exeter. I had a bad rugby weekend last weekend because I was all over points on this game, on the back of some other bets. So it was one that took me out one of my bigger trebles that I had, but. Yeah, I thought more point, but that red card messed up that whole dynamic of that game. But Gloucester -6, are they that good to be given 6 points against Bristol? Even though Bristol have this, I think this is a bit cheeky. Yeah, I think it's a bit of disrespect for Bristol considering. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Gloucester looked pretty bad to start off the year. Bristol are down to the bare bones, and there's nothing they can do about it. But they've just their whole team is their whole back line really is sort of gone. It's both wingers, 2 of their 10s, Randall, they've been stripped. And so I can't bring myself to back Gloucester, but what I can do is that points line is very high, and Bristol's points line is going to be at 27 or 28. Listen, backing Gloucester's defence doesn't sound right because they're not very good at it. Yeah. But 28 points. I mean, you saw them against Exeter. I know they're away, but they couldn't. They had nothing in attack, and it's not Pat Lamb's fault. It's not the players' fault. It's just they have no 10, and they're pretty much relying on Kieran Marmion, who's a good player. They're relying on him to sort of be the spark in attack along with the centres. So yeah, Bristol to score, 4 tries essentially and convert them all, I think is a bit of a push. So I'm going to back the Gloucester defence, which doesn't sound great, but yeah, 28 points, I think, or 27 and a half is too high for me.
Sure, that's a scary bit for me, because this is again as a points when I see matchups in the Premiership, like say last season, I probably would have been on the unders on the Newcastle Northampton game on a Friday night, and this was a game I would attack the overs. But I don't know about you, but I used to love Gloucester on the overs bets, but they've regressed for me on their attack as well. And I don't know, I know they got that 3G pitch, but I don't know. I find games at their ground these days aren't nearly as high scoring as they have been recently. And on a Friday night, well, this is not just a Saturday. Hey,
this is Friday as well, I think.
It's also Friday, yeah. But these night games in Gloucester, the sunny to get 3 p.m. games, maybe not so, but the night games I find at Gloucester are not as fruitful on the points side. So you could be right. It scares me, because normally this is a game I'm happy to look at the overs, but you are right. You could be. I'm probably gonna still probably stay away from the points, but not sure. I'll probably look at maybe an Alf Bristol plus there. I don't think Gloucester move away from them. They're not good enough to pull away too much from them. All right, move on to Leicester. This is also interesting, Cap. So sorry, I haven't seen any teams, man. So I'm going blind here, just looking at the number at the moment.
Yeah,
and
there's
the
no
previous
teams.
few weeks. Yeah, we've got the previous few weeks. But Leicester plus 5. That's if Bath have any kind of decent team. This is also feels a bit low. I mean, I know it's a home Leicester game. I know Leicester did pretty all right. You could probably say against Northampton. So maybe it's also it's a derby game, right? They classify this as a derby.
Leicester sort of the Midlands. Bath is a bit further.
Okay. But yeah, 5. What do you think of that number? I feel it's a little bit low, but it's probably close to where it should be. I don't think it should go. It shouldn't be more than 7 anyway. What have you capped it, or what do you?
Yeah, definitely not more than 7. Again, this is team dependent. The Bath team isn't out. I'll be interesting to see. I think they will put the first team out, so I'd be interested to see. Money won't go on Leicester tomorrow if the Bath first team gets rolled out. If anything, it might stay the same, but it might move maybe a point or 2 towards Leicester. I would begin to think about Leicester there. I came into the season sort of. I was sort of ready to sort of oppose Leicester. They lost about 700 international caps worth of players. Montoya and Pollard, and I know Mike Brown didn't play, but he was still there, and Ben Youngs and Dan Cole. They lost a lot of players. They didn't really replace them all that well. But I think they've been pretty good to start the year. The Harlequins, they were in a bad spot. They were 19-0 down, but it didn't look difficult for them. So I think they scored 29 unanswered points, and I thought they were pretty impressive in that. And then last week, they didn't win, but I thought they gave themselves a pretty good chance of winning that game against a really good Northampton team at home. So yeah, if Bath roll out the Galacticos tomorrow and it ends up at plus 7.5, I will probably be on. I'll be on Leicester. This number, I don't think so. If Bath put out the second team, I don't know who they're playing next week, but maybe they're thinking about that. A weak Bath team, I would take that. I would take that number 5.5.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I'm saying obviously I'm looking at recency bias maybe in my mind, but you are right. Even previous encounters, this is like a Cardiff, a Dragons Cardiff game. Bath don't go to Leicester and ever blow them away by more than a score, if I can remember. Again, I'm going back. To be honest, I haven't looked as much as I'd normally look for this weekend. But that's right. That's Leicester at the Walford Road will probably want to pride there. It's probably going to be pumping, and they'll probably dig their heels and then give Bath a hard game, and probably a 1-score game. You're right. Cool, Saracen Sale. These also not teams that I often get involved too much in. Not a game I would often get involved in. But Saris have looked super solid. Sale have actually haven't been bad, all right. But I would say this is well capped.
Yeah, it's a bit of a bounce back spot for Saracens because they got their asses handed to them by the Quins last week.
Sorry, I forgot. I forgot about that. Yeah, Quins did super well.
So it'll be interesting to see. I assume this will be strength against strength. Because I was talking about Northampton earlier. I think this is second and third best teams in the league playing each other. So I would like to get myself to back Sale here. 7 is not a number I'm going to take for them, but again, sort of like Leicester, 2 more points, 9.5. Yeah, I'd have Sale at 9.5. But 7 against a better team in a better spot. No, I think 7 is just a little bit too small for me. But if 9 I'll be okay with. But if it stays at 7, I'm going to stay out of it. I'll watch it. It'll be a good game. But 7 is too close. I have it sort of in between 5 and 6. So 7 is too close for me to take.
Yeah, but you are right. Absolutely, Saracens in these spots often are pretty solid at home. But I mean, when they bounce back spots, I've seen it before. They come out and put in a big statement performance. So, yeah, I'm on the line on the fence at the moment. It's quite close to what I've been thinking. So there's another standout for me. And then we on to the Exeter Harlequins. I found this an interesting cap. I mean, obviously, again, now I remember the Saracens game. Obviously, Harlequins looked super good. Exeter have been a lot better than I thought. But yeah, Exeter, I might have even had Harlequins 1 point favorite here, possibly. But I mean, I haven't had a good look at it. But I think this is a few points wrong. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I like Quins here. The first 2 weeks they lost to Bath. It was about an 80-point game, 80 points total. They were never going to win, but they didn't embarrass themselves at home against Bath. And then Leicester, they were pretty poor. But last week, I mean, the obvious difference was Marcus Smith was back. And if we're talking about the Six Nations or international games, I'm not as big a fan, but he was really good on Sunday. And I think there's a chance we get a little bit of more extra money here because Ikitau is probably going to play. I think he's been in England for a while, and Hooper as well.
They're back. Okay, well that's big.
I think Hooper is maybe arrived a couple of days ago or something, or maybe yet. So I'm not. He mightn't be playing, but you might. I think apparently there's a chance you might see Len Ikitau on the team sheet, which I think will probably get a little bit more money for Exeter. But yeah, I would say I would have this as maybe a 50-50 game with a little bit of a lean on the Quins.
So we're on the same path there. Yeah,
happy to +4.5, +3.5.
Yeah, I think even +3, and I think we must remind there is a storm coming. I think this is slap bang when the storm's coming through on Sunday.
Yeah.
So you just need to look at that as well. But I agree, even at 3, that's two. Quins have showed me enough that they can win this game. They runners in this game, and that's enough number for me.
Yeah,
to take it. But
Exeter had they spent a lot of that game last week in the 22. That was a Bristol team missing, like they had no backline, not no backline, but they have a very their backline's decimated. Missing, I think that they got the red card for Jordan, and I think they had another yellow card, and they just couldn't kill them. They couldn't finish them off. So yeah, 4.5. I think is a good number for Quins.
Awesome. Well, that takes us to the end. I think we've covered all the games. So thank you. We've powered through quite a few games, and yeah, it's been great. Obviously chatting, and not just on the games itself, but I think hopefully people have found it useful anyway. And it also brings us to the best bets. What are your best bets for the weekend?
Well, I'll do it in with the games that I know what the teams are, and then I'll do the ones that I'm sort of guessing the team sheets. URC for Friday, the Dragons are my best bet, and my second best bet is the unders in that Dragons game. I like those two both. I'm the Bulls money line and Edinburgh. Yeah, that's good, but I like that Dragons game. I'm going to be involved in that. And for the Prem on Friday, I would prefer that Northampton minus still. I think it's 16. You probably get 15. There's a coaching mismatch. There's a bench mismatch. There's a starting 15 mismatch. It's all in favor of Northampton massively. And then in the rest of the games, from the Prem, I don't love any of those three.
Yeah, I see you like the Sharks. Do you still put your money on the line?
I like the Sharks and the URC. Just double check on my games here. I like the Sharks. I'm on the Sharks, and then if I do think we're going to get a high enough points line in Leinster Munster, so if you get 48, 49, 50, that's a good number.
Yeah.
Take the unders there. So yeah, that'd be the best bets for me.
Yeah, that's quite. So we've had a long show. We've gone through so many games. It's quite funny because you're very aligned. Because I say I'm going to ride with you on that Dragons. I've seen enough. I said I might not even watch it. It was one of those bets where I just know enough that I'll be happy to put that number on and go do what I need to do. But I do like it. I think 8.5 is too high. Great one. Glasgow definitely team sheet dependent though. The +3. So is that a decent Glasgow team? That I'm riding with you on the Sharks, bro. I'm going for it. I can't oppose that team. This has to be a game that they have to get it right. I'm happy if it doesn't come in, so be it. But that team's just too strong in the spot against Ulster.
Yeah.
So let's ride the Sharks.
I think it's a good bet.
Yeah. Let's ride the Sharks. I feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Kind of. And then quite again, like Sharks versus Ulster. I love backing quality against. I like seeing an A team versus a B team, and I happily back the A team. And it's another A versus B team spot. Let's give us the Saints. The Saints. I think the Saints are far too good. Maybe I think Newcastle might score some points, but I think I can see Saints calling up to 50 quite easily in this game.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much. Good to see you. Good to see you well alive. Thanks for making it. But also have a good weekend. And then thanks. And hopefully, obviously Brent should be back and probably the Oracle and Mossman. But everyone, hope you enjoyed it. And have a good weekend, everyone. And see you soon. Cheers.
See you.